Hi, I'm Jenna and I chose Chapter 4, Social Welfare Policy in the 19th Century. Starting off with the early republic, at the start of the 19th century, the main group in the US was small landowners. There were also people named reformers like Dorothea Dix, and they wanted to turn prisons into a voluntary place and wanted to remove mentally ill people from them and mainly wanted to turn to a place of recovery. So we have a very different attitude today about institutions, but back then it was believed that they saved people from unsavory conditions. And then there were also a lot of opportunity creating policies such as suffrage for men at this time and access to education, and things like that are still present today. Moving on to the Civil War. The Civil War started over arguments based on slavery, also the power of the federal government, and the rights of states against the federal government. There were several things that were done to try to stop the Civil War from happening, such as the Compromise of 1850. This was a series of laws to try and appease both sides, but ultimately it was ineffective. And so the Civil Wars happened, and there were a lot of social policies during that. For example, there were support for freed enslaved people in the form of food and healthcare, and these were at military camps. However, there was a downfall because they were pretty uninhabitable. And then there were also things like the American Freedmen's Inquiry Commission, and then they coordinated new programs, and the Freedmen's Bureau. After the Civil War, we get into things like Jim Crow laws, which enacted segregation into law. There were also the fact that freed enslaved people were not allowed the same rights to land, businesses, and education as white people, and so racism became a very structural issue. There were also during this time many women who were abolitionists, and they also fought for women's suffrage, but unfortunately was not super successful in this century. After the Civil War ended, we came to the time of industrialization, and in the US it was super fast and progressed really rapidly, and this was because a lot of movement to cities happened, and there were also railroads that were really quickly constructed, which allowed people to travel easily. At this time, there were a lot of factories, but unfortunately there were no regulations or labor laws for workers, and so people were really overworked and really underpaid. And this mistreatment of workers, as well as city life and the lack of land and the lack of being near your family, caused a lot of economic struggles for many people.